What is up, my loyal hostages? How you doing today? If my math is correct, then this is going to drop right in the middle of my whole world tour, and that's just bad planning on my part. But I mean, Kraven the Hunter's out this weekend, and I mean, I'm not going to ignore it, am I? It's not Venom 3. So let's do the time warp again and go back to the 1960s and look at the early evolution of Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the Hunter. Amazing Spider-Man number 15 by none other than Stan the Man Lee and Steve the Beeve Ditko. I actually met his nephew once, it's not much of a story. So the Chameleon is nearly caught by Spider-Man and he's pondering how to deal with this hero problem he's got. Then it dawns on him that Kraven the Hunter would relish the opportunity. So he calls him. Later on, in what J. Jonah Jameson calls the biggest story of the year, Kraven's ship has arrived from Africa. So it's already established right away that Kraven the Hunter is a big deal. He's known throughout the world, like him coming to New York. Big deal for the Daily Bugle to get on the headlines, right? And when some crates that were shipping animals break open, we get to see Kraven in action. He's fast enough to snatch up cobras and strong enough to wrestle gorillas. His uncanny attributes come from a secret potion stolen from a witch doctor of a hidden African tribe. This, of course, would be Calypso, but that's not going to be revealed for decades. And of course, he also reveals that he is there to hunt the most dangerous game, a certain wall-crawling webhead named Spider-Man, who he spends a few hours stalking before he decides that he will indeed make a worthy foe. Upon their first fight, he discovered that Spider-Man is actually stronger than he thought, so he resorts to a poison before managing to get away. Though he was defeated, he's now quite pleased because he has found a foe to truly test his prowess. But Spidey pretty much shakes off the poison, and when they meet up again, Kraven slaps a couple of magnetic restraints on our boy. Of course, Spider-Man is a scientific thinker, and he uses his web fluid to block out the magnetism of his new charm bracelets. Which has to be comic book science, because that doesn't make sense to me. Nothing blocks magnets. Spider-Man defeats and unmasks Kraven, as one of them was the Chameleon, and now he appears to be playing a little with Kraven, showing him what it's like to be hunted.
How does it feel to be hunted? You tell me!
And then, with barely a punch thrown, Kraven is caught in a net and arrested. But instead of getting thrown into prison, he and the Chameleon are deported to South America. So quickly now, let's jump on to Tales of Suspense number 58, again by Lee, but this time the art is by Don Heck. Kraven and the Chameleon bribe their way off of a boat and back to America, where Kraven is instantly defeated by Iron Man in the first few pages. And right around the same time was Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1 and the creation of the Sinister Six. That's kind of where I'm getting mixed signals from Stan Lee because, in one issue he's just destroyed really quickly by Iron Man, like without a problem, and then all of a sudden he's joining a team of Spider-Man's greatest threats? It is kind of realistic because Iron Man wouldn't have a problem at all facing Kraven the Hunter. But if you still want him to pose like a real threat to other heroes, you can't have him jobbing out so easily like that. Especially right before something like the debut of the Sinister Six. Anyway, speaking of jobbing out, let's dive into the issue. Doc Ock forms the Sinister Six with himself, Vulture, Electro, Sandman, Mysterio, and Kraven the Hunter. They kidnap Aunt May and Betty Brant, and then as a team, they decide to face Spider-Man one at a time. Though Kraven at least justifies it by saying, only with a solo victory can he get the revenge that he seeks. Kraven's fight is up second, and though he did want a solo victory, he brings two cheetahs with him. But Spider-Man is just too fast. He actually doesn't even defeat Kraven the Hunter, he just takes the location of his next fight and leaves. Which makes it even more strange when Kraven is locked up with the others at the end of the issue. He next pops up very briefly in Amazing Spider-Man number 18. The Green Goblin forced Spider-Man to retreat, and literally everyone is talking about how Spidey must be a coward. And that includes Kraven the Hunter, who is free and still wants to track down and defeat Spider-Man. But he wouldn't for like a year and a half until Amazing Spider-Man number 34, when Kraven is standing in his trophy room lamenting over the one victory he does not yet have. So he heads to America to try and defeat Spider-Man again. He sets up shop in the Chameleon's old hideout, and for the first time, but certainly not the least, he dons Spider-Man's costume, in hopes of luring out the webhead. And when it works, Kraven sprays Spidey with a jungle scent to counteract his Spidey scent, which actually seems to work. The two fight for many pages, but even without Spidey sense, Spider-Man simply outclasses Kraven in every possible way. He may be a very formidable hunter, but he should really rethink taking on superheroes. In Amazing Spider-Man number 47, we get a bit of a retcon when we learn that the last time Kraven attacked Spidey, he was doing so on behalf of the Green Goblin for $20,000. It's about $190,000 in today's money. And it's actually unclear. I'm not sure if Stan Lee thought that was a retcon or just a fight we didn't see. It's not clear, but there it is. But Kraven did his homework and learned that Norman Osborn was funding the Goblin. So when Kraven inevitably lost the fight, he gained a new target for his hatred. And once he got out of jail, very quickly, he wanted revenge on the Green Goblin. Unfortunately, he was presumed dead at the time, so Kraven planned to take it out on Norman Osborn, because Kraven doesn't know what we all know. Also this time around, Kraven has a new weapon. It's a double-barreled ray that can magnetize his muscular electrolytes, slowing down his quick speed. And this is where I'm starting to see a theme, like each time Kraven faces Spider-Man, he comes up with a new different way to overcome some of Spider-Man's advantages. Like, he's showing he's a brilliant hunter and he doesn't want to give up. Like, there's actually really good stuff going on here with early Kraven. Except this double-barreled ray, it's nipple lasers. Anyway, Kraven keeps trying to take out Osborn, but failing. World's greatest hunter, my butt. So he decides the best way to the father is through the son. And of course he did this during a party that one Peter Parker was attending. So Spider-Man vs. Kraven round 6 or 7 is about to begin. And it goes like the others. Spider-Man's just too quick. He outmaneuvers Kraven at every turn, staying ahead of him and laying in the licks. But can Kraven turn the tide when he blasts Spidey with his devastating nipple lasers? Find out right after this quick word from today's sponsor.
Well, hello there. I'm Haas, and I'm here to tell you about a way you can change your life without even spending a single penny. All it's going to take is you moving your little finger just a couple of inches. First, you got to go down there and hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel, Haasman Comics, because you know what? That's a good thing to do, especially if you haven't done it already. If you already did it, don't do it. What you can do, slide your finger a little bit over and hit the like button. That's part of a new program I'm calling Helping the Haas, and that helps me. The third thing you can do is actually helping yourself out a little bit. That's helping the hostages. You go down there because a lot of us, like me, in real life don't necessarily have people we could talk to about comics. So go down in the comments and talk to me about comic books. Talk to each other about comic books. In fact, if everything is according to plan, which it isn't, there's going to be a link in my description to my Discord. It's rudimentary and I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe some of you early people that come into my Discord will get able to help me. English. First language. Maybe not, but you can go in there, you can talk about comics, you can talk about movies, TV shows, talk about my channel, talk about my videos, give me suggestions, we'll maybe do some polls or something. You can post your fan art, I know one of you is looking forward to that. And then since it is nearly the season of giving, Christmas time, there's one thing that you could do for me that I would consider a personal Christmas gift. Start sharing my videos around. If you're part of a social network or whatnot, Facebook, Instagram, I don't know all the social medias, but like somewhere where you think you could share my stuff that people will see it and just spread the word of the Haas. Helping the Haas. That's the season greeting this year. We're helping the Haas because, I don't know, it seems selfish now, but I'd like the channel to grow. But like I'd like all of us to grow as a community with it, right? The more this channel can grow, the bigger and better it can get. And that'd be awesome for me and for all of us. Anyway, back to Kraven the Hunter.
Yes, they drained Spider-Man of his energy, and his muscles felt like mush. It seemed Kraven finally had the upper hand, but in the crowd below, he spies Norman Osborn and diverts his attack. But he can sense that something isn't right. Since Osborn at this moment has been purged of the Green Goblin, he doesn't recall any arrangement with Kraven, and Kraven's pissed off, but he does let Osborn go, and he proclaims a victory over Spider-Man, and he leaves. He didn't beat Spider-Man though. He's been saying this whole time he wants to mount Spider-Man's head in his trophy room, and Spider-Man's head's still on his body. Like, to me, beheading would be a decisive victory, so this is not a victory. But then again, maybe Kraven is just tired of losing all the time, he just wants to put this whole Spider-Man thing behind him. I'd buy that. 2 issues later, when defeating a 6th Spider-Man, the Vulture is named the deadliest menace in the city by the news. That makes Kraven so mad he fights a tiger, because he believes he was the first to defeat Spider-Man.
But he didn't.
But either way, Kraven is a man of his pride, so now he wants to defeat the Vulture. Also, for the record, this wasn't Adrian Toomes, the original Vulture, this was Blackie Drago, the second short-lived Vulture. And of course, their battle draws the attention of a certain wall-crawling web-slinger. And if you think we're gearing up to a 3-way dance, you are wrong. The baddies team up for a 2-on-1, but even still, Spider-Man isn't sick anymore and he does just fine. Especially when Kraven accidentally gives Vulture a nipple laser whammy. And yes, I do know for the record they're coming from the lion's eyes, not his nip-nips, but it's a nipple laser, come on. When it is down to just Spider-Man and the Hunter, Mr. Parker decides to deliver a message, so he stops holding back and he hits Kraven with a Hulk-staggering punch. Kraven gets the message. Which is probably why he leaves Spider-Man alone for a little while, as in Astonishing Tales 1 and 2, Kraven sets his sights on hunting the world's last surviving saber-toothed tiger. That being Zabu, the pet of Kazar, Lord of the Savage Land. And wouldn't you know it, he's still using those nipple lasers. He does defeat and capture Zabu, and Kazar obviously follows, but he gets overpowered as well. So Kraven the Hunter becomes the hunted as Kazar tracks him back to civilization to free his pet.
How does it feel to be hunted? You tell me!
They have an even match, and Kraven escapes, vowing to meet Kazar again, which comes up in Amazing Spider-Man issues 103 and 104. We're going to start speedrunning some of these because Kraven does have a very definitive place to end the video that I'd like to get to. It just has a little more issues than I usually cover, and, well, you'll see, but a lot of these don't have as much development, so we'll get through them quick. Then we'll get to the big stuff, the good stuff. You know what's coming. You know what's coming. If you don't know what's coming, you're gonna, it's gonna be good. I don't even know how to explain this one. The Daily Bugle funds a research team to the Savage Land because of a big creature named Gog. Peter Parker goes to take pictures and Gwen Stacy is sent along for the female perspective. So Gog kidnaps Gwen, King Kong style, and brings her back to his master Kraven, who is attempting to take over the Savage Land and decided he wants Gwen as his queen. Spider-Man teams up with Kazar and Zabu, and Kraven is defeated while Spider-Man gets Gog stuck in quicksand and leaves him there to die. And in case you're wondering, Kraven actually found a baby Gog in a crashed spaceship and raised him, and then Gog didn't actually die there. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 110 and 111, featuring the first appearance of the Gibbon. An injured Kraven the Hunter thinks that for whatever reason, manipulating the Gibbon is a surefire way to beat Spider-Man.
But it wasn't.
Daredevil 104 and 105 has a mysterious stranger offering Kraven $100,000 to take out Daredevil. But Kraven says no to the money and takes the job just for the challenge. And this time he's got a green vest. But not a real green vest, that's cruel. Bare naked ladies. He takes on both Daredevil and the Black Widow, but when he realized he cannot defeat them both, it's not the nipple lasers he turns to, but his devastating new kitty claw. Meow. And though he seemingly defeats the Man Without Fear, Black Widow takes him out with a kick to the back of his head. Creatures on the Loose is a book I'd never even heard of until today, and I read issues 32 and 33. Okay, so that Tower of Shadows series I talked about back in my Night Shift video, after issue 9, that became Creatures on the Loose. It had some Cull stories, and then monster reprints, and then Gulliver Jones, Warrior of Mars, and then Thongor. Basically, it was a swords and sandals / fantasy / horror anthology series where just anything went. But eventually, it became a book about the Man-Wolf. That's where Kraven showed up. Kraven fights and defeats the Man-Wolf so he can bring him to a forest area and defeat him again. But even with his nipple lasers, Kraven loses. I'm actually really surprised how often the nipple lasers stuck around. I thought they were there for an issue, maybe 2, but they keep coming back. Another series you may not have heard of is Marvel Chillers, featuring Tigra and Kraven squaring off. So Kraven's just running through a checklist of were-people.
How does it feel to be hunted? You tell me!
Anyway, they fight and Kraven actually goes full force nipple blast on Tigra, but she overcomes it and wipes the floor with him. His next 10 appearances are all nothing special. Kraven shows up and gets defeated. He does show his honor when he stops Calypso from taking out Spider-Man with a cheap shot, and he does perform a surgery to save Kazar after Kazar saves him. But generally he's just showing up to be on the hunt and trying to get a defeat over Spider-Man, but as I said, he loses again and again and again and again. And while there were 0 nipple lasers in these issues, there was at least 1 instance of nipple gas. So you can tell at this point, Kraven the Hunter just kind of became a generic villain. Not really strong enough to be a major threat, but someone familiar enough to just keep showing up. But in those early days, he was all about his honor. He wanted to defeat Spider-Man. He set out to hunt Spider-Man, He's the greatest hunter in the world. He can stop a rhino. He can hunt an elephant. He can fight a gorilla with his bare hands. And then he sets his targets on Spider-Man, and Spider-Man beats him, and he just doesn't know how to handle that. He can't handle that. He's the hunter. He chose to hunt Spider-Man. He will not rest until he gets his victory over Spider-Man. Then, like I said, that kind of fell by the wayside and he just became a generic villain that showed up over and over and over again. But something truly amazing for the character development of Kraven the Hunter was right around the corner. Well, is next up. It's Kraven's last hunt. We all know what happens in this. If you don't, I am going to spoil it, but don't worry about it. Everybody knows how this ends. Everybody knows what happens in Kraven's last hunt, but so many people haven't read it. I am begging you, I implore you, even if you know what goes on in Kraven's last hunt, read it. I love it. I'm not going to say it's one of my favorite comic books, because it isn't, but I cannot deny that it is just one of the most perfect comic books ever written. It's so good, you guys. J.M. DeMatteis, Mike Zeck, and Bob McLeod present Kraven's Last Hunt over 6 issues. It gives us a little more backstory on Kraven's life and a lot more insight into his mind. Kraven is thinking back on everything he's done, and he still needs to defeat Spider-Man. He's ready to finish his life and be done, but he can't until he gets that victory over Spider-Man that he just has not gotten. It is beginning to consume him. He goes out and he knows how to take Spider-Man. He shoots a dart and knows Spider-Man will dodge it, so he shoots another dart above him, and he tranks out Spider-Man and captures Spider-Man in a net. And when Spider-Man gets up, Spider-Man's thinking, not a big deal, I got this, it's Kraven the Hunter. But he looks up and Kraven's got a rifle pointed at him. He's like, whoa, this is not Kraven's style, something's not right here. And blam! Spider-Man is done. Kraven the Hunter has defeated Spider-Man. He buries him. He puts him in a coffin and he buries him. Here lies Spider-Man, defeated by Kraven the Hunter. But that wasn't enough. Kraven understood that he took out Spider-Man with a gun. He cheated. He didn't quite earn that victory. And he knows he can't defeat Spider-Man fairly. So what can he do? He puts on Spider-Man's costume and decides to go out and show the world how much better of a Spider-Man can be. A superior Spider-Man, if you will. The first superior Spider-Man. And he is brutal. He takes out some muggers that happen to be attacking Mary Jane. Like, that's a coincidence. But she knows right away, that ain't Peter. He is stopping criminals and he is using deadly force. And then, you want to talk about characters that get a turnaround in this book. There is also Vermin. Vermin is just a rat man. But he gets some story in this, and you will not look at Vermin the same way twice. Vermin is a little afraid of Spider-Man. Vermin was previously defeated by Spider-Man and Captain America, and that's the thing right there. Kraven the Hunter decides that Spider-Man alone could not defeat Vermin. Spider-Man had to use Captain America's help, and the two of them together barely beat him. If Kraven can defeat Vermin, then Kraven is better than Spider-Man. I can defeat who Spider-Man couldn't defeat. I'm better than Spider-Man. That's his thought process. So he does. He defeats Vermin and locks him up. But even that isn't enough, for he did not truly kill Spider-Man. He tranked him out and made him seem dead, knocked him out for 2 weeks. Spider-Man bursts out of the coffin, furious that he has lost 2 weeks of his life. And he comes to Kraven and he goes and he's beating the crap out of Kraven. But Kraven's like, whatever, I won, man. I got it. Do what you're gonna do. But check this out. He takes Spider-Man down. He's like, look, there's Vermin. And he lets Vermin out of his cage and he says, Vermin, that's Spider-Man. He beat you up. You got to get him. So Vermin attacks Spider-Man because Kraven needs to prove again that Spider-Man cannot defeat Vermin. Kraven needs to prove his superiority. And he does. Vermin defeats Spider-Man again. And Kraven's like, hey, get out of here. Because he does not want Spider-Man to die. He wants Spider-Man to live knowing that Kraven is better than him. And Spider-Man's left with a choice. He's like, I got to stop Kraven, but Kraven's not really doing anything right now. But Vermin is on the loose. Spider-Man has to go stop Vermin. And Kraven's like, yeah, go ahead. You have my word. Kraven will not hunt again. And he means it. Because he's got a coffin laid out and he's got a shotgun. And he's like, I've done it. I've proved myself. How calm I feel. How peaceful. As if something inside of me, some knot, some tangle of fear and anger and so much more, has finally been untied. All these years, fleeing Russia, suffocating in America, finding release, finding honor in the jungle. All these years. And I've never known peace or calm, or that elusive thing called happiness. But I feel as if I can know it now, that it's nearby, just outside. Perhaps hidden in the patter of the rain, the drumbeat of a thunder. Peace, calm, happiness. An ending. Now. They said my mother was insane. Blows his fucking head off. I said it was a shotgun. I'm not even gonna correct that. That's widely called a shotgun. It's a rifle. The issue's in my hand. It's very clearly a rifle. It's the end, and it's the definitive Kraven the Hunter story. So perfect. You should read it. And that wouldn't be the end of Kraven the Hunter. There'd be flashbacks. He was in the Avengers at 59. He'd have children and other people take the name Kraven the Hunter, and he himself would come back many, many, many years later. Like that Kraven, Sergei Kravenov died that day. I think the first time I read Kraven's Last Hunt was a long time ago. And the last time I read it, last time I read it was this afternoon, but before that it was a long time ago as well. But like, having read the early appearances of Kraven the Hunter and then read what J.M. DeMatteis did here in Kraven's Last Hunt, I don't know. I don't have the words to explain just how that's what a comic book should be. The art is freaking amazing. Just the story is so good. It takes a character. It doesn't alter anything. Nothing inherently changed about Kraven the Hunter. They didn't reinvent him. They didn't alter his backstory. They added so much more to him, but it worked so good. They brought this character out and then just had the balls to kill him off. Like my shitty Kraven cosplay. I have nothing else to say. Stay hossy, folks. That's it. Kraven the Hunter. I'm gonna check out the movie. Double-barreled ray that can magnetize his muscular electrolytes. It's a double-barreled ray. It's a double-barreled ray that can magnetize his muscular It's a double-barreled ray that can meow. 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 Meow.